Oh, right now at 560theanswer.com.
Tickets for Freedom Summit Chicago are on sale now at freedomsummitchicago.com. That's freedomsummitchicago.com.
Dan and Amy, there's a what's described as a far-right political action committee that's claiming credit for the AOC video, and a woman who was chanting "Eat the babies" to save the planet. But now this is Gizmo.com reporting it. The group is called LaRouche PAC.
What's LaRouche PAC?
Like Lyndon LaRouche.
Oh.
I question the legitimacy of that PAC. That sounds to me like the hoax within the hoax, if there is a real hoax.
Well, yeah, the left-wing media has been saying on social media all day that woman was a GOP plant.
Yeah, well, LaRouche PAC, whatever that's supposed to be, is not any organ of the Republican Party. So I'd like to get a lot more context on that. By the way, here's another important note, as you pointed out, Amy. AOC's tweet after the fact, she didn't think it was a hoax.
No, not at all.
You know why she didn't think it was a hoax? Because what that person said?
Maybe she believes.
Well,
it should happen.
More to the point, what that person said, she routinely gets exposed to. That's not a big deal. What that person said isn't out of bounds. We don't have just a couple months. We just have several years. But it's not that big of a difference.
She never corrected the woman.
She never corrected her, and she believed that woman was authentic. So there's my response to this report of the LaRouche PAC, and please do provide more reporting on that. I'm open-minded wherever it goes, but AOC's reaction, both in the moment and after the fact, is telling regardless. Switching gears, we talked a little bit about this when the leaked audio from Facebook's internal meetings came out, which proved definitively that Mark Zuckerberg is just as boring as you think.
I mean, it's ambient audio, if you ask me, but
the
try to stay awake for it.
The big news was, him calling out Elizabeth Warren by name. Oh, the horrors!
Like Elizabeth Warren, who thinks that the right answer is to break up the companies. If she gets elected president, then I would bet that we will have a legal challenge, and I would bet that we will win the legal challenge. So basically. Does that still suck for us? Yeah. I mean, I don't have to, have a major lawsuit against our own government. I mean, that's not like the position that you want to be in when you're, it's like we care about our country and like want to work with our government to do good things. And but look, at the end of the day, if someone's going to try to threaten something that existential, you go to the mat and you fight.
Yeah, and so after that, because that was such a strong statement, like we oppose Elizabeth Warren breaking us up, he said, I won't be targeting Elizabeth Warren specifically anymore. I'm properly chastened. For more on big tech and 2020, we're pleased to be joined by Michael Rectenwald again. He's a retired NYU professor. I think he got out just in time. He is the author of a number of books, Springtime for Snowflakes, and his just the end of September released, Google Archipelago, the Digital Gulag and the Simulation of Freedom. Michael, thanks for joining us again. Appreciate it.
Well, thanks for having me, Dan.
So one of the things that Zuckerberg said, too, in the audio that was leaked and posted from those internal meetings was one of the problems with breaking us up or the pursuit of antitrust prosecutions of big tech companies like Facebook is then we can't work together to prevent election meddling. So it prevents us from collaborating to do good things, and that's a problem. How do you react to that?
Well, it's a lie on its face because, it's been shown that big tech is involved in election meddling. Specifically, it's been shown, for example, that Google was involved in the 2016 election, and they probably directed tens of millions of votes towards Hillary Clinton because of the way they stack their search results, left-leaning. Their search results are always left-leaning. Their algorithms are tilted to the left all the time. Facebook is also very, very discriminatory. They're very tilted to the left. It's been shown that their deeming of fake news is differentially opposed to right-wing or right-leaning websites as opposed to left, even though the infractions are equal. It's shown that they are differentially opposed to right-leaning users, and they are banning them and shadow banning them in greater numbers than left-leaning, despite the same number of infractions.
Well,
So all these things are, yeah.
Oh, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I'm sorry. All these things are what?
Obviously, they are not benign, neutral, political actors. They're very politically engaged actors. So it's interesting that Warren is calling for the breakup because, in effect, they're helping the Democratic Party in unbelievable ways. So I would be really surprised if this really is an earnest attempt or an earnest plea to break up big Facebook and other big tech corporations, or rather a ploy or just a bit of rhetoric.
Well, who's Google pushing for in the 2020 election right now?
That's right. They even said, and we're caught on tape on a Project Veritas expose, saying that they were going to intervene in the 2020 elections, that they did not want another repeat or a repeat of 2016. They couldn't have it again. This can't happen again, they said. Despite the fact that they tried to steer the election results in the last election.
Right, and but certainly they redoubled their commitment from both those Project Veritas sort of whistleblower interviews, plus, frankly, just what they said, what Sergey and Larry and Sundar said at that cry room gathering after the election to distill what just had happened and how the world had been shaken to its core. But here's the thing: I want to go to back to that testimony that that psychology professor Robert Epstein gave to that Senate subcommittee the same day that Dennis Prager testified about his content being banned on YouTube and so forth. His research, he's 6 years of research, and he looking at how Google does its algorithms, suggesting some of the same conclusions that you just offered. And he said that they could have moved anywhere between roughly 4 and 10 million votes for Hillary Clinton in 2016, according to his assessments. And if they work together, the big tech companies, they could manipulate and move as many as 15 million votes one direction or the other. And we know which direction they would be likely to move them. Is his research from your research and your writing on the topic, do you find his research to be legitimate and the issues he's raising on point?
Absolutely. In fact, all the other evidence suggests the same. Despite the fact that he's done this research and he's done a great job, there's other studies that have shown the exact same results. That there's the algorithmic tilt is very, very left-leaning as far as the Google searches go. And there's all kind of blacklists for websites that are right-leaning. There are no blacklists for left-leaning websites at all. There are all kinds of blacklists on YouTube, which is also owned by Alphabet. They have YouTube really quickly responded to a Slate reporter who complained after she did an abortion query on YouTube, and it showed a bunch of anti-abortion videos at the top. She complained. They responded within a weekend and turned it around and put these websites on a blacklist. So these videos on a blacklist, so that the search results on YouTube produced top 10 pro-abortion or non-pro-life videos. So, I mean, there's no question that he's right about this.
Do you have prescriptions in terms of what should be done? Epstein says not necessarily breaking up the companies, but he certainly would support mandating that Google make its search algorithms transparent so people can assess them straight away.
Yes. See, Google is really not just a corporation, a private corporation. They should be deemed a state apparatus for various reasons. First of all, they were funded by the CIA. That's how they got their initial funding. I mean, this was very well known. So they work and they still cooperate greatly with the state. So they're really an augmentation of state power. Therefore, the non-discrimination policy should apply to their search results. That is, there should be a non-differential treatment of various of political persuasions, or any type of difference in identity or anything like that. Secondly, they're in violation of the 1996 Telecommunications Act, the Section 230, which deemed that the social media sites and other big digital platforms would not be liable for the expression of their users, but that was in exchange for non-politically biased publishing, so that they would not be deemed a publisher who could be held liable
Right.
for the content. That was an exchange for nonpartisan editing. Okay, but they have not, of course, held up to that.
So strip them of their indemnification for under the
That's
liability law, under the libel laws. Yes.
That's right. They should be stripped of their indemnification from liability under the Communications Decency Act of 1996.
When the title of your book, Gulag Archipelago, the Digital Gulag, and the Google Archipelago, the Digital Gulag, and the Simulation of Freedom, obvious reference to Solzhenitsyn. So we're all Alexander Solzhenitsyn now, and what is it that you mean when you say the simulation of freedom?
Well, you know how the internet was built as a place for complete untrammeled exploration and the freedom of information and the easy access to everything in the world, all the world's data. Well, that is really a simulated freedom because it's not real in the fact to the extent that our searches and our explorations have been tilted, have been directed, have been manipulated to a certain extent by Google and other big tech corporations. So the freedom that we feel is really also we're being surveilled upon. So that's the other thing. So this so-called freedom comes at the expense of surveillance. And I'm not just talking about Patriot Act surveillance. I'm talking about Google surveillance. I'm talking about the possibility with the establishment of HARPA, that the Health Advanced Research Projects Agency, which would collect data from various inputs like Alexa, like Google Home and Apple Watch, and report these findings to central databases from which people's lives would be examined, and also their suitability to own a gun might be impacted.
So you think we're going to, you think that there's potential danger here, a la China, where you could have Google driving the government to establish what are essentially social credit scores for all kinds of matters, from gun control to other freedoms.
That's right. This is the beginning of the encroachment of social credit scoring systems, which are very, very applicable all over China. There's 50 smart cities in China, and those smart cities are basically cities that have have surveillance at every point, where every motion of every citizen is known and tracked, and they're also restricted from certain movements based on their social credit score. The social credit score is like a socio-political credit score, and that is deemed based on their political orientation and their stance towards the Chinese Communist Party. So given that Google and Facebook and Instagram and Twitter are all left-leaning, if they get involved in grading us socially, it's going to have a socio-political element to it. So this means more depersoning or unpersoning of right-leaning people, more digital erasures of people, more digital trammeling, more digital constrictions, because, already there's travel bans on people from entering countries because of their right-leaning social media profiles. This has happened already. Laura Loomer can't enter the UK. Milo Yiannopoulos can't enter Australia. Already people's rights to travel, to move about, as being restricted based on social media platform profiles.
Got it. So grades are out the window in education, but we're going to have grades for as human beings in terms of our rights.
Right. It'll be in
perfect.
the United States. It'll be a social justice credit score. It would be a social justice. How well do you match up to the social justice creed, which is being taught through kindergarten through PhD in the United States?
He is Michael Rectenwald, retired NYU professor, author of the book Springtime for Snowflakes, which you should check out, as well as his new offering, Google Archipelago, the Digital Gulag, and the Simulation of Freedom. Michael, thanks for joining us. Good luck with the book.
Great. Thanks for having me very much.
And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
Hear about the big stories of the day, then talk about them right here on Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Are you looking to improve your home? Why not make it